Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP Necromancer Wizard Build Guide for in Baldur's Gate 3. Now we're going to be using Gale here, and this is going to be either 12 levels in the Necromancer Wizard line, or we're going to split it 11 and 1, and I'll get into the multi-class in this video. But for our starting cantrips, we're going to want to go with Bone Chill here for one of them, as that is kind of what the Necromancers are about, the necrotic damage. Mage Hand is nice to have as well, but if you're the face of your party, take Friends. This is just super powerful to have in general. Minor Illusion's nice at times, but I think that something like Mage Hand can be quite useful. So for our selected spells at level 1, we're going to go with, I think that Witch Bolt can be good for damage dealing. We're going to take off Grease, we'll put on Chromatic Orb, and we can make this a necrotic version as well. Mage Armor is nice to have early on as well, and we can always remove that later if you don't want it around. Thunderwave is a great early spell as we can push enemies off the cliff, and that's always nice to have. Sleep can be great to just take away a few different enemies off the battlefield, but we're obviously taking Magic Missile. This is super important. One of the best wizard spells that we can get. And Shield is really nice too, so we're going to take off probably Fog Cloud. Fog Cloud's pretty useful, but Shield's a reaction that allows us to increase our armor class and take no damage from Magic Missile. Really, really useful early on. So depending on what kind of gloves we want, there's dexterity increasing gloves. We're obviously going to dump strength, doesn't have much usefulness here. And we can realistically dump our charisma a bit, as we don't really use much. We don't really use that for much, especially if we're not the face of the party. If you're the face of the party, you do want some charisma. Wisdom, we can always keep decently high, something like that. The extra dexterity would be nice here as well, so we can dump that and put our dexterity to 14, which will give us increased initiative, which is always super useful to have. And something like that looks good. If we have the hags here, we can increase our intelligence to 18, and then also 2 ability score improvements to make that 20, which is kind of ideal. So what makes the Necromancer so powerful is there's a few different choice gear that we can go with. If you're in Act 1, make sure you grab the Necromancy of Thay. This gives us a really good spell later on that allows us to summon 4 in. So our subclass is really where this thing gets interesting. So we're going to go with Necromancy here, because the Necromancer is kind of what this build's all about. We can go 6 levels Necromancer, 6 levels Druid, but for the purpose of this video I'm going to keep everything in Wizard, because Wizard is pretty powerful. So with that, we get the Necromancy Savant. Learning Necromancy spells costs half as much, blah blah blah. Grim Harvest, so once per turn you can kill a creature with a spell, you regain hit points equal to twice the spell slot level used, thrice if it's a Necromancy spell. Undead and constructs are ineffective, so that can get pretty nice later on. For our next level cantrip, Find Familiar can be pretty decent just to have something else to spread aggro around, and False Light to give you extra health. Expeditious Retreat is pretty okay as well, but I think False Life or Sleep, one of these two. You know, I'm going to take Sleep, because one nice thing about Sleep is you can sleep a bunch of enemies, and then you have your zombies and skeletons attack them, and they'll just deal a whole lot more damage, so that's quite nice. Prepared spells will take something like that. Take off Ray of Sickness, put on Find Familiar, take off... Just depends where you're at if you want Mage Armor or not. Shield is good to have too. So something like that. Magic Missile. Take off Chromatic Orb. You can take off Witch Bolt and put on Sleep or Chromatic Orb, but something like that for level 2. Doesn't matter too much until we get further into things. So this is where we get our level 2 spells at level 3. So this is really useful because we can now get things like Cloud of Daggers and Hold Person. Cloud of Daggers is nice, just crowd control, putting up a bunch of damage. Scorching Ray is pretty good too. I think Scorching Ray is a very powerful damage dealing spell, but for our prepared spells we'll go with something like that. Hold Person is really useful, but we'll go Blade of Daggers. I can't even pronounce it. But we'll go to level 4 here, and we're going to get our next cantrip with Blade Ward, as this is nice just to reduce the amount of damage that you're going to be taking overall. Minor Illusion if you got someone that's going to be setting up Fireball, because that can group enemies together before combat. Flaming Spear is nice if you want to have more summoned in creatures. That is a concentration, however, so we're going to take Scorching Ray. There's a few other spells that we can go with, but I think that the ultimate focus of this build is just having a lot of summons in. Misty Step can be pretty good too, so I think Misty Step's worth taking as a bonus action. We're going to get a feat here as well, so that's quite nice, and we'll take something like that for our class. And then we're going to go with the ability improvement. Ideally, you'll have something that'll bump your intelligence up even further, but somewhere around there is quite nice. And you can also take Warcaster if you want to hold your concentration on spells. This is quite nice as well. And yeah, we'll go with that. Alert's also pretty great. +5 to initiative. Super useful all through the game. And yeah, we'll go with that for our first feat. Now, Wizard 12 will get 3 feats, but I'll get into why we might want to switch classes. Now, Haste is pretty broken. This is Transmutation, but we are getting our Animate Dead here. So this creates an undead servant from a corpse. So we want to obviously take that. Counterspell can be nice too to shut down enemies that are trying to, you know, attack us. But something like that. Haste is really good too. You can hasten yourself or an ally to give themselves an extra action, become faster and gain +2 to armor class. Super overpowered. I think that can really be a game changer. Sleet Storm is nice too, but I think that we're going to go with either Haste or Counterspell. And for our prepared spells, we'll take Create Dead, because we're going to be a Necromancer now. So you can upcast that as well as we get higher level slots, and that allows us to summon even different creatures and stronger creatures. So here we get our subclass features. So we get, when you use Animate Dead, you can raise an additional corpse. Just super useful just to have an extra one around. And creatures created have additional hit points equal to your wizard level. And your proficiency bonus is added to their damage. So we get our intelligence on there. Undead Thralls Animate Dead. We get that always prepared, which is nice just to have. And we get our level 3 spell slot. So Lightning Bolt can be nice. As I say, Counterspell. Counterspell and Fireball are kind of two very nice spells that we almost always want to have with us. We'll take out Mirror Image. We already have Animate Dead. That's going to be now always on us. If we go back to here, this is always prepared. So we don't have to worry about not having that. It's just always going to be there. So we can take something like Counterspell there just to help out with defensiveness, because that can really mess up your jive if you don't, you know, shut down a spell that might be attacking multiple of your creatures. So next level, this is really where this gets interesting. You can also use elementals alongside your undead. So we're going to go with that as well, because honestly, elementals are pretty strong. So we want to use the stronger elementals once we get them, but for now, that's what we're going with. Confusion can be nice too, because it's like Fireball crowd control. It hits a large area, but we want to take our Necromancy spells. So we're going to take Blight, which just gives us another chance to heal ourselves with our spells. And it's a pretty good spell just to have. Now, there is an item later on in the game that'll allow us to cast our Necromancy spells with or any of the high damaging Necromancy spells. We'll be able to just continually cast them. And that's where this build gets really powerful, because we get life essence from that Necromancy staff. So I'd recommend looking for that in Act 3, because it does make a huge difference with this. I like Wall of Fire for our next level spells at level 8. Something like that. You can go with a few different choices here, but Bestow Curse is a Necromancy spell, but not like the most best choice. Lets you deal additional damage to target, robs it of its action. So you could use that on something. It's decent. You can use that and have your undead attack the creature. But I like something like Dimensional Door can allow you to take a teammate across the map. But I like Ice Storm just to help set up for other classes, because you can create water with that, and using that can be really powerful. So we're gonna go with something like that for our spells there. And for our next feat, we can bump our intelligence up, but we're gonna assume that we get an item to increase that, or you use the Hag's Hair. So we're gonna pretend that that's 20. There's a few different choices. We can get some ritual spells here, which is kind of nice just to have rituals, but there's obviously better choices than that. We can also go with something like Alert, which I mentioned previously, is super useful just to have overall. If we have the Constitution necklace, we can also dump our Constitution, put our Dexterity a little bit higher. So there's a few different options that we can go with there. But I think Warcaster can be pretty nice, so you can hold concentration on a spell, and you can use Shocking Grasp to hit a target out of moving range. So that can be really powerful just overall to have. Shield Master is also pretty nice too. You gain a +2 to dexterity saving throws while wielding a shield. If a spell force uses dexterity saving throw, you can use your reaction to shield yourself. So that just allows us to use block. We're going to be using a shield with this, so that can be actually quite nice. I don't see a lot of people talking about Shield Master, but it is quite nice just to have, just overall for reducing damage purposes. You can also go with something like Resilient. Resilient Intelligence wouldn't really work because we already have proficiency in the saving throws for those, but there are a few different options that we can go with if you want to have just something a little bit different. Like Alert is really good just to increase your overall initiative. So Shield Master or Alert can be great choices here. I think I'm going to go with Shield Master just because I am using a shield here and it gets pretty defensive. Like you're going to see here, Gale's usually squishy, but he's surviving a lot longer than most others with this build. So we're going to take Conjure Elemental here because this is really, really powerful. And then for our next spell, Hold Monster can be really nice because that allows you to hold anything that's not undead. But Cloud Kill. Poison damage doesn't hurt our zombies. So we can pop Cloud Kill and then you just reposition the cloud and then have your zombies wherever. And this just will continually damage enemies. So for our prepared spells, we'll take that. Take off Minor Elemental, we'll put on Conjure Elemental. Something like that looks pretty good. As we get into level 10, this is where things start to round out for the build. We had our subclass feature, Inured to Death. So you steeped yourself completely in death so that you're resistant to necrotic damage. And you can't get your health points reduced. So that's pretty nice just to have on you. Now, Minor Illusion is probably the most useful of those, or Light. Our next spell slot that we're going to choose, Hold Monster, is really great. Cone of Cold can be pretty powerful too. But, yeah, I think that that's likely one of our best options here. There's not really much that we'd go backwards for. Grant Flight, maybe Glyph of Warding if you want to do necrotic damage with that. Planar Binding can be pretty nice as a concentrator, so maybe we'll take that. Just to have it kind of falls in line with the Necromancer build where you can have a otherworldly creature fight for you. So that's really nice. We're going to take Hold Monster as our spell there. And yeah, we're going to slowly be wrapping up here. Level 11. This can be your final level of Wizard. So we get our level 6 spells, which is huge. This gives us Circle of Death. This is powerful. Sculpt a massive sphere of entrophic energy around a creature. Devastate all targets and all surrounding creatures. With that Necromancer spell that I talked about, we can continue to cast Circle of Death multiple times. It gets crazy, so we want to definitely take that. Eye Bite can be nice too. Your eyes become black walled corridors. You can put things to sleep with this, so Eye Bite is honestly pretty good. And these are both Necromancy spells at level 6, so quite useful. Globe of Invulnerability is also really great, so I would recommend maybe taking that too. It just depends how we're going to fill out the final level of this build. There's a lot of really great level 6 spells. Autos or Irresistible Dance is nice, but I think Eye Bite can be a bit more useful for our build's purposes. So we'll put on Circle of Death, and then we'll also, since we have Circle of Death, we could take off Blight, but it's a level 4 spell, so either take off Hold Person can be upcast to get more people, and Hold Monster can also do Hold Person. So it comes down to if you find, I guess we can take off Find Familiar and put on Eye Bite. So there we go, that's rounded out there. You can also take like Wall of Fire or Haste, and our final level, this is where we can go multiple ways. So there's a couple different choices that I think work well here. So if we went with this, we would take another 2 level 6 spells and we'd get our feet, usually Alert. But what I think works pretty well is adding in a multi-class. Now you can go with the Druid, but I would typically go like 6 and 6 Druid, so you get the Spore Druid and then the Necromancer Wizard. So I think that the Cleric is actually one of the best that we can pair with. Reason being, we're going to get Guidance and we're going to get Bless from, we're going to go Life Cleric. So that's that for our subclass. We get Cure Wounds, so that gives us a heal, as well as Bless, and the subclass feature where when casting a healing spell, we get hit points equal to +2. That's nice, but the reason we're doing that is we're going to get Heavy Armor Proficiency. That's really nice to have. And we can also use Morning Stars as weapons, but we're going to be using a staff. So you can go with either of those, and I think that really can, we're going to go Mistra, obviously it's Gale. that can really tie things together. So we can go with healing inflict wounds is actually a pretty decent action that we can use, a necromancy spell. But we're going to go with healing word, because this is a bonus action heal. Then we can heal people across the map if they're downed. This is useful if you have enemies, or if you get hit. Also, create water can be nice if you're setting up a storm sorcerer or something like that. But we're going to go with that for our final level. It gives us heavy armor proficiency. Now I'll go over a bit of the gear, but there are a few really great options. Number one thing we definitely want to have is a circlet of bones, or circle of bones. This is dropped by Balthazar, and allied undead within 6 meters are resistant to all physical damage. Huge. So they take half damage that they would normally from normal attacks. This makes them survive a whole lot longer. Cloak of the Weave, kind of suiting for Gale, gives +1 to spell saves and a spell attack rolls, and we absorb elementals once per short rest. So it gives us the ability to deal damage. We're using Helldusk armor here, and this puts our armor class up to 24, which is super nice. Now, if you don't have this is late in Act 3, but we do have heavy armor proficiency now, so you can go with like some type of heavy armor and a shield, and you're going to be really well rounded with that. I like the Gemini gloves, cantrips targeting an foe and ally can target an additional creature. Pretty nice just to have. And then Disintegrating Nightwalker gives us Misty Step, so we can be moving around a lot. Now the main focus of this is to pop up our summons as much as possible. The Water Myrmidon is actually one of my favorites. I think that it's pretty great because it can heal and also do some ice damage too. But the Water Elemental is pretty nice. I think that the Water Myrmidon is probably the best of those. And then Animate Dead, we can... So this is at level 3, we get Flying Ghoul. Or this is level 5, we get the Flying Ghouls, so that gives us multiple of them. We can get a Ghoul, specialized melee combat skeleton, or zombie. And then if you upcast it, it can get pretty wild. So there's the 2 level 5 upcasts and the 2 level 3 upcasts. Flying Ghoul gives you multiple ghouls, which is really nice. And if you have a hard time with finding bodies, I recommend giving them to Karlach and letting her throw them around. It can be pretty funny, but you can store bodies and drop them when needed. But also in Act 2, there's a large group of bodies that you can continually summon them up from. So it's in the House of Thorn, and you can go there, summon in all your creatures, leave the area, and take them with you. So that is an OP Wizard Necromancer build guide for Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know if you have any requests for any different types of class build guides, and thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button below, and I'll see you in the next video.